Breaking tonight, a judge delivers a blow to Trump's immigration raids in California with a ruling that stops some of the most controversial tactics. Also ahead, the dramatic turn in the MAGA meltdown over Jeffrey Epstein. The FBI's #2 reportedly furious and considering quitting. Can Trump weather the storm? Plus, polygraphs inside the FBI. A former agent who resigned speaking out tonight on Laura Coates Live. We start with the breaking news here tonight. A judge temporarily halting indiscriminate immigration raids and arrests in L.A., saying the government is performing stops without reasonable suspicion and denying access to lawyers. This is a legal victory for immigration advocates, and it could stall President Trump's mass deportation plans all across this country. Now, a Biden-appointed judge ruling, quote, "The court finds that the broader public may also be in fear of having their constitutional rights violated by seizures without reasonable suspicion, especially in light of the ongoing reports of stops and arrests." The judge banning stops based on someone's apparent race or ethnicity, speaking Spanish or English with an accent, a presence at a particular location, or someone's type of work. Now, this ruling comes just a day after the violent clashes between immigration agents and protesters at two different farms just northwest of L.A. Homeland Security says they detained some 200 undocumented immigrants after executing search warrants. Joining me now, California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell, who sits on the Homeland Security Committee. Good evening, Congressman. Let's jump right in because I'm curious about your reaction to this ruling that is temporarily now halting immigration raids in L.A. What is your reaction?
Well, it rightfully does so, Laura. In this case, the court aggressively knocks out what they call roving patrols. It cites a number of different individuals. One of them is Jorge Viramontes, as well as Jason Gavidia, both who work at a car wash, both who are U.S. citizens, and both who are harassed multiple times. And the court goes as far to say that you can't just come up to people and detain them based on how they look or the location that they're at, as Tom Homan tried to justify on another network today. It says you have to follow the Fourth Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment, these two were U.S. citizens, applies not only to U.S. citizens, it applies to anyone in the United States.
You know, Congressman, on that point, I mean, you're describing racial profiling, which is what the Fourth Amendment is trying to guard against, right? But the borders are. Tom Homan, as you mentioned, he defended his agents earlier today. That happened before the ruling. Listen to what he said.
People need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. They just need the totality of the circumstances, right? They just got through the observation, you know, get articulable facts based on the location, the occupation, their physical appearance. Every agent, every 6 months, get Fourth Amendment training over and over again. These officers are really good at what they do.
So he's saying that they're trained for the Fourth Amendment, obviously, which protects against unreasonable search and seizures. One can be trained on something and still violate it, though, correct?
The actions of ICE agents across America do not reflect whatever training that Holman is suggesting that they have. And the approach that attorneys general have to take, and even district attorneys and states attorneys across the country, is they have their own law enforcement powers. And we can't have the most vulnerable in our community on their heels. If you can charge officers with false imprisonment, assault, battery, and it meets that the facts of each case meet the law, you have to do that. You can't just let the most vulnerable people in our community be profiled because of their last names. And by the way, Laura, a 6-year-old battling cancer was arrested. A 71-year-old woman named Barbara Stone, a grandmother, was arrested by ICE agents. And the one thing they have in common, they're both American citizens. So they're not even getting it right.
Surely there's got to be a balance struck. Obviously, I know you would support there to be some lawful measures to understand who could pose the type of threat that the Fourth Amendment would not have a problem with. But on that basis, I mean, this ruling comes a day after those chaotic raids in your state of California just yesterday. You know that ICE agents arrested hundreds of people. Several protesters were injured. A congressional Democrat called the raids, quote, overkill. But then you had Homeland Security saying that one person fired a gun at officers. And it appears you can see that in the video, it seems. So he is saying, the border czar, he supports the right for people to protest, obviously, but not when people cross the line. Do you think that some actions from protesters crossed the line, or was this purely overkill?
Violence always is crossing the line, and there's no place for violence in our community. And I don't support or want to be associated with anyone who is going to bring violence against these officers, period. Now, Laura, I will also say, as a former prosecutor, son of a cop, brother to cops, so I've put people in jail for assaulting cops. ICE agents are the only law enforcement agency in America who routinely go into our neighborhoods masked and not identified. Those masks should come off. If they are standing on the law, they should not be afraid to show their face.
Excuse me, Congressman.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt
I think
but
every
I
ICE
wanted to
agent
ask
should
you
be
that because you do think that every ICE agent should not have a mask. Is that still your position, even though they say that ICE says that assaults are up, what, 700% from a year ago? Would there be any danger that's posed to those who remove the mask, or do you see the value in removing it outweighing any risk to those agents?
We need ICE agents to have trust and credibility. And if someone attacks an ICE agent or makes a threat against an ICE agent, they should be put in jail. And that's the best way to go after someone who does that. But they have lost the trust of the community. One, because they're not going after violent criminals as we were promised, and instead going after our friends and neighbors who work in our community. But two, they looked like masked bank robber bandits. And it's not safe for them, because somebody may pull a gun on them thinking there's someone else, and it's not safe for people who don't know who they are. So those masks should come off. If they don't come off because of laws that are being passed in states like California and New York, I promise you, in a Democratic majority, there's enough colleagues of mine who are going to push to make that the law.
Quickly, Congressman, have they explained to you on your committee why they are wearing those masks?
The excuses that I've heard is that they're afraid of being exposed. And the FBI, as you know, having worked at the Department of Justice, when they go on a raid, when they conduct searches, they wear pretty loud uniforms that say FBI, but they don't cover their faces. So unless they can articulate in each case why their faces need to be covered for their own safety, I think they should be unmasked. They've lost the trust and credibility, and that's just not what America looks like. That's what Russia looks like. That's what China looks like. That's not what America looks like. And we're going to unmask ICE, I promise you, Laura, in a Democratic majority.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you for joining.
My pleasure.